I am sitting here chatting with my good friend, Mr. Zach Prez. He's the guy that I turn to when I'm looking for advice on SEO or search engine optimization and that sort of stuff. He literally wrote several books on the topic, and he just wrote another one, which I think is sorely needed in the photography community simply because we are all so busy, and we're looking for these bite-sized nuggets of how to do certain things, and especially SEO. It's one of those 300-pound gorillas that we just don't want to look at. We just assume it's not there, and Google will take care of all of it for us with its robots. But Zach is going to break it down for us in this interview. We're going to be talking about some innovative things around social media, and specifically some things that you can do to kind of turn some knobs and dials right now to get traffic flowing in to your site and to get noticed quicker by Google. So Mr. Zach Prez, welcome back to the show.
How you doing? I'm getting a little bit of microphone envy there. I might have to show my big one.
All right, you're going to take it there, huh? Are you going to go there? Really?
Good to talk
because
to you
this
again.
is a battle I know I'm going to win. I'm just... No, yeah, that's an impressive mic you got there, sir.
I think you recommended it.
Yes, yeah, cool. Awesome, man. Let's dive right in. I don't want to hold you too long. I know you gotta, we're literally at the end of the day in California, and you're in California, so I'm sure it's dinner or Miller time. So
Sometimes both.
Yeah, probably a little bit of both. Maybe not in that order. Okay, so let's jump into this. So the reason that I wanted to talk to you about this particular topic is you wrote an ebook called Recipes to Rank, right? So and correct me if I'm wrong. The idea behind the book is sort of bite-sized recipes for doing certain things in social media. Before we dive into the meat of the conversation, tell me what that book is about.
Yeah, well, it's essentially a cookbook all about Google and ranking well. So the way to rank is through ingredients. You have to have certain things and an understanding of what Google's looking at when it puts together a search results page. And then there's different recipes you can do to combine those ingredients into something that's going to position you well. So whether it's focusing on your blog homepage or a splash page or optimizing images, there's all these ingredients and recipes that you can combine based on how much time you have and what kind of site you have to position yourself or get seen more easily by Google.
Have things gotten easier since we talked about a year ago on this same topic? Have things gotten easier in the last year in terms of how to do this stuff, or is it still, because back when we first talked, I knew it was really, of course it's really important, but that it always feels like voodoo and magic and all this stuff, and then Google changes the rules, almost like living on a planet that the physics keep changing on, So
yeah, right.
One day gravity is this, and then the next day it's that. How do you navigate that, and what's changed?
Well, I mean, it's a little bit easier in the sense that there's a lot of available information. Even Google, you can look up Matt Cutts. He's a guy at Google who's an evangelist and talks about what Google looks for, and they're very open about that. But what has changed is there's a lot more things that Google looks at now with, load time being important and mobile capabilities and the social integration. All those things are brand new. They weren't even there a couple years ago, and now they're starting to play an impact in your position.
Now with the mobile piece of this, with the mobile piece of this, and Google paying attention to mobile now, does this mean that sites that are designed to be, say, responsive, they get ranked higher than, say, your static HTML website or a site with Flash on it? Yeah,
well, think of Google as a person, and they want to recommend somebody that you as a friend are really going to be interested in. And it's going to look at a number of things. I mean, are you interested in a site that takes forever to load or one that's mobile friendly if you're looking at it on your phone? So it can tell what browser you're looking at. It knows you're on a phone.
Yeah.
And it has said that 20 to 25% of searches have local intent. And so it's using that too. I mean, are you searching for something that could be a local business? Mm-hmm. And it's going to use those as factors. Is this a local site? Does it have an address attached to it?
How does it know that, say, Zach Prez's Italian restaurant, how does it know that you are local and not someplace that's online selling gear for Italian restaurants.
I would, and it's funny that you mentioned Italian restaurant. You probably saw the video that was put out recently by Google where they say, when you search for Italian restaurant, now you get a display of all of those at the top of the page, and it actually takes up about 20% of the page. But they know that if you're looking for that, you're probably not looking for an Italian restaurant in Italy. You want something near you. I'm guessing it does that by how many times that thing is searched with a city in the name. Mm-hmm. If you're looking for a photographer, you're not just looking at all photography. There's almost always a city attached.
Yeah.
It can also see, based on Google Places profiles, how many of those are businesses, and do they have addresses, and have you entered it in the photography business category. So it's got all this. Just like Facebook, there's a lot of profile type information attached to your business, which it may pick up from your website or from a site like Yelp. It's looking at reviews, and it's looking at your social Google Plus profiles, and it puts all those pieces together.
Does it matter if like on your About page, for example, or the company's About Us page, that they have their physical address on there? Does like Google say, okay, there's an About page, is there an address on this page? Okay, you get 3 points,
Yeah, it does. Well, it just gives it more confidence that your business exists somewhere. Okay. There's a lot of fake shops or less credible shops. If you've got an address attached, now you're more credible than somebody that might be, an overseas site that's posing as a credible business. So it's going to match your address across the web. It'll look at Yelp. It'll look at Google Plus reviews. It's going to look at your website and other sites out there like The Nod or Wedding Wire. And the more times your address is seen, the more confidence it has as a friend that you're somebody legitimate. And it wants that friend to have a good experience when they're clicking through those results. And all these are just indicators that you're a legitimate business that has a good web experience, whether that's social or local or mobile.
Yeah. Now, speaking of social, of course, Google is pushing Google Plus as well, right? They're pushing it hard. And then, of course, and we know there's a lot of photographers on there, and a lot of people are just confused about, okay, do I use Google Plus or should I stay on Facebook? Should I do both? When you're looking at this through from the perspective of someone that's building a business and trying to increase rankings in Google, say that's what I'm doing for today. I'm trying to increase my rankings in Google. Putting your content or posts or updates on Facebook versus Google Plus, are they going to have more weight on Google Plus because it's a Google property and they like people to use their stuff?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Social is a small picture or a small piece of the puzzle. So anything you do as far as your social presence, it's adding up all your social profiles and putting that together into kind of one value score, saying this person has more connections and following on social, therefore they must be a better business and we should show them higher. But Google Plus takes it a step further because it's showing Google Plus information right in the search results. So if you have a Google Plus page for yourself, you have a profile, or a business page, when somebody searches your name, it will show that info, your photo, your contact information, all on the right side, which is great. Now it gives a shortcut for people to get in touch with you. They can see what you've said recently on Google Plus right in a search results.
Okay.
And the people that are connected to you in your Google Plus circles, like if I search photography, which is a huge worldwide search, I'm going to see your stuff right in the middle of those searches. Now, you're not really ranked, number 3 for photography worldwide, but since we're connected through Google Plus, I might see your photography post on page 1.
I'm doing a search now.
Everybody probably created Google Plus profiles and isn't doing anything with it because that's not where their client base is. But for now, you're not really doing it for your clients. You're doing it for Google, just to know who you are and to show something in its results. Later, you can work on building out your connections and what your profile says. But initially, you just want to get in the habit of putting information out through Google Plus so that it knows, again, that you're credible and saying something.
Now, how do you know, and maybe this is inside Google sort of, hidden recipe stuff, but if I have a just a regular profile page on Google Plus, and then I also have a community on Google Plus, and then I also have a business page on Google Plus, how does Google know which one? If someone's just on regular Google.com proper and they do a search, how does it decide what it's going to display? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've searched for a photographer, and the personal will show first, and the business will show second. And there's a map in the middle that's showing the profile from Google.com/places, and so it's just aggregating everything. It doesn't mean you have to be everywhere. My point is that Google Plus is displayed in search results, so at least have something there.
Yeah.
Have a professional looking photo, try and get some reviews attached to it, have your address there. You can begin talking more on it later, but at least you'll be able to see when you search your name what shows, and then you can start to tweak that to be a little more powerful. It's only going to get more important. And like I said, it's really easy to understand why Google is using this, because if I've got two businesses to choose from, and one's got 10,000 likes on Facebook and 1,000 people in its Google circles and 1,000 Pinterest followers, that person's advice in business is probably a lot better than somebody who's brand new and doesn't have that following yet.
Right.
So it says a lot about how good that business is, and Google takes that into consideration.
It's all about reputation, it seems like. It's like the internet is just like real life, huh?
Yeah, well, everybody knows about links. Links is like a popularity contest. How many times are you going to get mentioned on other sites?
Yeah.
And that says how credible that business is. Well, social is starting to play into that mix. So it's not just links anymore, even though links still is, the number one. When you asked has much changed, well, it's still keywords, in your title tags and optimizing images and links from other sites, but it's kind of these other things now too. So that's where you get the edge over everybody else, is by having the last couple of things.
I'm seeing a lot of
compatibility.
I'm seeing a lot of parallels with this social media marketing stuff and high school, and the popularity contest and having more likes and all that stuff. It just reminds me. I'm getting pangs of like being a nerd in high school again. I don't know if I like this.
Yeah. Well, and you still have to post to Facebook. It's just for different reasons. If you can only post one place, Facebook might get you more business today, but posting to Google Plus today is not going to rank you higher today. It's a long-term game, so it's kind of doing both over time to satisfy your future audience and your existing audience.
Yep. Well, let's wrap this up, because I'm looking at your video, and it's I think Skype is getting angry at us because we're talking about Google. It might be Microsoft doing something to that. If you mention Google more than 10 times in a video conference, drop the bit rate down. So let's just talk a little bit about the book. So again, I have my notes here. So the book is called Recipes to Rank, right? So go into that a little bit. Like if I get this ebook, it's $100, and it's 100 pages, and it's 100 pages of like not just this is the history of SEO and this is Google, right? These are concise nuggets that I can use to improve things right now, right?
Yeah, that's right. So it gives you a foundational understanding of the ingredients that Google is looking at, to rank you well. And then it puts together those ingredients into different recipes that you can use to rank higher. So it talks about how to optimize a Google Places page, what to put on Google Plus, how to get links, how to optimize keywords in your titles, how to write meta descriptions, how to improve your load time so that when somebody's looking at a phone, Google still wants to show it because it's fast and responsive. Yeah. So there's lots of different pieces out there. Google has 200 ranking factors, and I just focus on, the top 20% or so that are going to get you 80% of the result without working too hard. It's very clear and laid out, nice and easy to understand. So you say, oh, I get it now. I get why this is important and when I should focus on that. And then as you have time, you go through each recipe to say, okay, I'm going to do this one today, this one tomorrow, this one next month. So over time, you build the understanding and can implement these little by little so that in a couple months, you'd be ranking really well for whatever you want to write about.
I love that format because most of us, and I would argue almost all of us, I guess, are just insanely busy. And, there's one thing to get a book that just explains SEO and the mechanics of how everything works. And this does that. If you pull this lever, it does this. And this is how Google looks at that. But for me, if I have some couch time, I want to sit down and say, okay, on my to-do list tonight, I'm going to do this recipe. Boom, this thing. And I know if I go through the steps, I'm done. That's out of the way. A couple days from now, I can sit down and do another one. So I think that format is
like
gold.
Cooking. It depends on what you feel like that day, your time commitment, how much effort you want to put into it. And it's, you just pick and choose what works well at that time. I've gotten really good feedback about how easy it is to understand and implement. And there's plenty to keep you busy for 6 months. There's 100 pages and 20 plus recipes and worksheets and videos if you're a visual learner, and you are, since you're a photographer, to kind of walk you through those steps.
That's really cool. Well, congratulations on putting that out, and thank you for putting that out. It's you know how it is. It's a much needed thing for people that just have busy, insane schedules to break it down into bite-sized, easy chewable chunks.
Yeah.
So cool. So we're gonna do. Before I started recording, I twisted your arm, of course, to give a discount. I always do that. That's become my thing. I have to get a discount out of my guests. If they have a book or something, my listeners have to benefit from me doing this conversation. So we agreed on TWIP20 as the code, right? So
yep.
TWIP20, and I'll flash that up on the screen. So TWIP20. And it's going to be good for 20% off through the end of August. So August 31st at midnight California time, 20% off of this $100 book. So do the math. How much is that, Zach? How much can they save?
Well, I guess the question is, how much are they going to earn?
There you go. Exactly. Yep. There you go. So it's a small price to pay for the bite-sized training and getting up to speed on SEO. So when they're done, their site's going to be rock solid, right?
Yeah, well, I think you'll find you're ranking for dozens of phrases instead of just one, because they talk a lot about how ranking for like Sacramento wedding photographer may be the most searched phrase, but it's not the phrase that's going to get you the most business. You can look at venues and locations and times of year and all these other things people are searching for, and you can rank for that stuff really easy. It's not very competitive. So you'll be ranking for dozens and dozens of things. How do
you, and we'll end it right after this. So how do you measure that? So if I'm, it's like when you buy the fitness program and they tell you to take a photo of yourself in front of the mirror before you start.
Yeah.
If you take a photo, how do you take a photo of your SEO body before the workout and after the workout?
Well, I show a couple tools. So there's a tool called Rank Checker, and you can put in your URL and certain keywords. It tells you where you're ranked, and it will show you that, every time you run it. So if you start today running it, and then next month, you'll see your rank change for each phrase you've listed. And Google Analytics tracks it too, historically. So you don't even have to do anything. And next month, you can look back and see your keyword volume for every phrase, whether or not you know about it or not. And it'll show very clearly. And the book explains what reports to do so you can see that growth.
Very cool. Awesome. Zach Prez, thanks again for coming on and doing this. Thanks for that discount as well. And on behalf of the TWIP audience, thank you. We appreciate it.
Thanks. It's always good chatting with you.
Cool. And what's the URL that they should go to check this thing out and go get it?
Photographyspark.com.
Photographyspark.com. Cool. How'd you come up with that?
I guess it just sparked into my mind.
I had a spark of inspiration. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I try and spark people's businesses, and the SEO does that, so I think kind of fit well.
Perfect. All right, man. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. See you later.